Information Management Services. The company has been in business for over 30 years. We're one of Kodak's top 5 integrators in the U.S. We are an ABBYY Premier Partner and Integrator for Advanced Capture Solutions. And we really are, if you look at our business, capture specialists. We deal with advanced capture solutions, the professional services that go with them, integration into people's existing systems. And that's really where our focus as a company is. We're very customer focused, and we have a very high retention rate of the people that we work with, because we do pride ourselves on doing the right thing for our customers and working with them in their best interest. So today we're here to talk a little bit about AP automation, invoice processing. And so this is a study from the Aberdeen Group in PayStream, which talks about the top pressures that finance executives are facing today. A lot of it certainly is reducing the cost of processing invoices. They want to be able to improve the visibility to those invoices, shorten their the processing cycle time, so they can improve their cash management. So I think those are all symptoms that people are experiencing today across business front. And the actions or plans, the things that the executives want to work on in this year is, how do I automate my invoice receipt, the workflow process? How can I standardize how we receive invoices into our process? I want to be able to conduct an assessment of our capability, integrate as much e-payable solutions as possible, and then we're seeing quite a bit of this last one, and that's centralizing the AP process. More and more companies are bringing this back to one central location instead of having multiple processing sites, in branch offices or regional offices across the country. So those are kind of the concerns of a lot of people that are managing these types of operations. So let's just talk a little bit about the 3 that are the most prevalent. That is starting to be more efficient, to have better visibility and better control. So today, the cost of processing an invoice, there's a lot of it is geared towards the manual data entry. There's a high cost of doing that. There's opportunity for errors when you do that, and it really is redundant work. So when you implement an AP solution, you get much more efficient entry. You'll be able to reduce the cost of the data entry and refocus your folks that you have working for you in the accounts payable on being accounts payable people, not data entry clerks. And so there's a lot of benefit in being able to do that. The second area is looking at visibility. Today, companies have invoices that are, they got sent to the wrong person. Instead of going to the accounts payable mailing address or email address, they went back to the person who placed the order. So a lot of trouble with those being, not forwarded as they should be. They're sitting on someone's desk, so you don't really know what you have. So when you start to project what your outstanding payables are, it's very difficult when there are a number of invoices that have not gotten into your system yet. So by implementing an automated system, you can gain early awareness of these invoices, because they're going to be captured at the point of reception. No matter where they come to you from or where they arrive to, we're going to get them right into the system. So you can really improve the visibility in what you have out there to pay and what's going to be due here in the near future. So the third thing is control. Many companies, they're still using paper invoices or the emailed in invoices. There's a lot of just ad hoc or paper processes of trying to get things approved. And, there are breakdowns in those kind of processes, as you're well aware. So you have delays, there are lost invoices, there's a lot of overhead, and when things get skipped and don't get paid, you end up with suppliers who are unhappy working with you. So again, with an automated system, since we're capturing these invoices right as they come to the company, we can get the data from them and then start an automated approval process where these can be routed electronically from person to person that need them for approval. And again, speed up and control that entire process. So the final thing that everyone is worried about is the cost and risk of automation, because frankly, when we talk to customers or clients about automating their invoice process, immediately it comes to mind that that is a really expensive proposition. But with the solutions we're talking about, they're low cost because what we're doing is going to work with your existing systems that you have in place. We're going to grab the invoices as they come into the company. We'll get the data from them. We'll do the checks of the data, and then we'll move it into your systems. So we're not replacing everything in accounting. We're not replacing your accounts payable solution. We're really enhancing what you're able to do today so that we can keep the cost of this process very, very low. I think in some of the emailers that we sent out, this solution costs you less than $1 an invoice to implement in the first year. And then after that, it's really a maintenance cost, which is much, much less than $1 an invoice. So this is an affordable solution, but has an incredible amount of power to it. So this quickly here is a drawing or a schematic of kind of the manual process. If you're doing this, you have something similar to it or some parts of it. Today, if you have branch or regional offices, you may be getting invoices into there either in paper or via email. If you're getting it in paper, if you're mailing them to the home office, you're losing a couple days. There's cost involved in doing that. You may also be getting documents that are mailed into the headquarters. You may have mail coming to, or emails coming to the person who purchased it. You may have some that are coming directly into the accounts payable department. But usually some combination of these things are how the invoices get to you. And a lot of time is spent getting them here to the right place. Then they've got to be reviewed. They've got to get entered, coded, and then you've got to get them approved. And then there's data input with all of this. So as you can imagine, if you're doing this in a paper-based system today, it could take 5 to 20 days to be able to get an invoice processed and just into your system. So as you can see, there's a lot of delays. There's a lot of places here where things can get lost or misplaced. So when you put an automated system in place with data capture, we're going to do this all electronically. So wherever the document enters your company, we're going to grab it. So we can eliminate the cost of delivery or mailing things in. We can increase the visibility because we're going to get them right into the system. You're not going to have any more of this hand-over-hand paper transfers to get things approved. It's just going to take less people for this entire process. So you picked up the things we talked about before. We're going to be more efficient, so it's going to cost us less for the data entry. The documents are going to be more visible to us because they're going to be in our systems much quicker. And we're going to have a much more controlled process as these things work their way from entry into the company, through the approval, through the ultimate payment of it. So when we talk about an automated invoice processing system, this just gives you some idea. So no matter where the documents come into the company, we're going to grab them and make them electronic immediately and send them to the processing system. So as you can see, if something comes into your branch office via email, you're going to forward it directly to an email address where we're going to pick up that invoice and start the process. You can scan through a web scan process with our product. If you have a mobile phone or an iPad or a tablet that has a camera capability, we can actually capture the invoice by taking a picture of it and uploading it into the system. So you can imagine with these tools available to us, we can get the invoice into our process immediately and, again, get all the value that we talked about before. So things will still come in the mailroom. You may scan them. They may be electronic, and they may come in different places. But what's going to happen is as soon as they come into the system, we're going to immediately do the data recognition. And so we're going to read all the data off of it. We're going to do checks against your existing infrastructure to make sure that we've got the right vendor and the addresses match up, and if you have POs, they match up. So we're going to do a lot of those things immediately before we pass it off to someone to verify that data, and then you can send it through an electronic approval process, which will greatly speed up this entire thing. Okay. So our solution that kind of does these things, the engine that can make all this happen, is from a company called Abby. Abby is founded in 1989. It's a global company. Their recognition engines are found in probably most of the major players in this market, meaning that the technology behind reading the data off of the documents is provided by Abby, a lot of other companies have incorporated that into their product that they resell to read invoices or to do OCR work. Got a lot of major companies that they work with, and these are all accounts, invoice processing customers, and there are lots more. So there's plenty of good references and people you can talk to see the power of this product. Okay, so it's a turnkey solution which enables the organization to dramatically increase their productivity while lowering the cost of processing their invoices. So this is a process that's going to eliminate the paper exchange. So we're going to get these things electronically, and we're going to eliminate the need for a lot of manual data entry. That's where the most time and money today is spent, is entering all the information off of those invoices as they come in, and we can get rid of the majority of that. We're going to be early capture. We're going to centralize the process and the validation. If you have POs for a lot of your invoices, we can actually process them straight through without having to go through anyone seeing them or touching them. And the beauty of it, too, is it works with your existing AP system and your ERP system. So there's not a lot of extra cost here because we're going to plug into what you're doing today and just make your solution better. Okay. So here's an example of kind of the workflow. Today you probably or may have some things that are coming in from your bigger vendors via EDI or XML, and those things are flowing directly into your ERP system, which is great. But what we're addressing are things that come to you today either as a PDF that the vendor has sent you on the invoice or a paper-based invoice. So if it's PDF, it may be coming in by email, or you may have a site that you're uploading or having your vendors upload the invoices to. Paper-based, you got to scan it some way with an MFP. You might be doing web capture where we can use a thin client from the web to scan documents directly in, or you could capture it from a mobile device, from your phone or from your tablet, and upload the images into the system. But once they reach our system, then we're going to do the intelligent data recognition. We'll do some automated checks, making sure we've got the right vendors, the right ship-to addresses, matching those in your system to make sure that we have good data. And then we can do PO matching or contract matching with what you have. Once this process is complete, if there are any things that the system is unsure about or needs someone to look at, that goes through a verification where someone from your organization will look at the document and it will present to you kind of the information that needs checked. And once they've completed that, it can go onto your approval workflow and into your ERP. So this is kind of how the system flows. I'm going to show you now broken down a little bit more about it. So the capture part, and this is how we're getting the information in. This first stat, this floors me, that 20% of the organizations print documents and then scan them back into the system. We have customers who today get faxes in who do this, where they'll print the fax, walk it over to a scanner, and scan it back into their system. So I know that a lot of this goes on. This system can eliminate those types of things because we can take an email, so you can set up an email address, which is ap@yourcompany.com, have your vendors send the invoices to that email address. We can monitor that, pick those invoices up, and start them into the process. We've got web-based scanning where we can connect through a thin client through the internet, and you can actually scan directly into the system. You can use an MFP or any kind of local scanners. You can FTP, again, mobile devices, and then also fax servers. So we can set it up to monitor folders on your fax server. So if faxed invoices come in, we can pick those up without you having to print them out and putting back into a different system. So there's a lot of different ways we can capture the documents and get them into the system. Once they get into the system and we start the recognition process, we're going to go through, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check who the supplier is. Make sure that that supplier is in your database and you have them set up as a vendor. So we'll find their name and match it to the address. They can have multiple locations, and we can do all of that. We also can, at that time, identify the buying unit or the group that has purchased that within your company. So if you have different buying units or business groups that have different GL codes or different work that they're doing, we can identify that and help assign that to the right buying group. And again, we can look up by multiple addresses, multiple variations of the name, different things like that to make sure that we're capturing the information correctly as it comes in. So once we've figured out who the supplier is and who our buying group is, or our ship-to person in our company, then some other information that we're going to pick up is the invoice number and the date. Again, the name and the address of the buying unit, the supplier's name and address, delivery dates, purchase order dates, line item information, description of the goods, the quantity, the catalog numbers, things of that nature, if you want to pick those up. Your currencies, what the costs are in totals. And so that's all the information that we're going to grab. We can also do other things like GL codes. We could add places where you can enter GL codes as you're bringing these invoices in. So there's additional data that can be collected that we can customize into the system. So once the information's come in, anything that there's a problem with or the system's not sure about, it's going to present that to a person for verification. So it's very convenient to do this data review. You can see on the left it has the fields that have the data fields. And whenever you click in one of these data fields, it highlights over here on the actual image where it read that piece of data from. So it picks up these values for you. It uses different colors to highlight fields that maybe there's some question about. And then it also gives you descriptions and warnings about maybe what the problem is. It doesn't match the right format. It's a date. It should be a number. Different things of that nature. So it's very easy to see what the issues are. It's very easy to manually correct them. The second part of this, and probably one of the most unbelievable parts in my mind, is that in most systems today that do this type of work, you need a developer to make any changes to the way an invoice runs through the system. So that takes a lot of time and money. If the vendor changes their invoice format a little bit and the date moves or an invoice number moves or they change a description or something, then that's go back to a developer to be fixed. But in the ABBY system, that's not an issue because anyone that you would allow, any user, could actually make a change to the form as they see it coming through the verification. So when it came through and I saw that the date is looking in the wrong place, I could actually move, select where the date should be coming from, and then click the train button. And so by doing this, an operator can train the system so that the next time the invoice comes through, it reads it correctly. This is really powerful in that there are really no other systems that can do this. The other part of the system that we really didn't touch on is that it's predefined the formats for all these invoices. So instead of having to develop forms for every vendor that you have coming in, this has a lot of it already built right into it. So we've run tests with our customers where they'll give us 100 of their invoices, and we can run them through the system without doing any setup at all and get over 90% read rates just right off the bat. So with just a small amount of tweaking using this train functionality, you can get your invoices working perfectly with this system very quickly and be up and running much, much faster than you could ever do with any other system like this. Okay. One of the additional steps that we can do here is we can do purchase order matching. So for your invoices that come in that you have created a PO for, we can actually connect to your purchase order system and look for the data for that purchase order when it comes through on the invoice. So the invoice comes in, we find the PO number, we go to your system. If everything matches up, and we can do line item detail to make sure that everything lines up perfectly, if that all matches up, we can process the invoice straight through without any more touching of it. It also gives you the ability, though, to make changes or to verify things on your own as you do this. So this PO matching is really a powerful part of the procedure because if you're using POs, you already have your GL codes are in there, so these things can get processed much, much quicker. So again, as we bring it through touchless processing, if we go to the PO and everything matches up correctly, you can go straight on to your approval process. So just in summary, you have some of the key key differentiators, that's the word, It's a solution from a worldwide technology leader. You know, ABBY is the company that is on the leading edge of this technology. It's a priority product. They spent a great deal of development on invoices to make sure that, you know, when you start running your invoices through, there's not a lot of development work that has to be done after the fact. It's agnostic to your back-end system, so we don't have to replace everything that you're doing. This is something you can add as an enhancement to the solutions that you already have. And because of the fact that ABBY has built it so that it's going to read most of your invoices right out of the box, this is very affordable and inexpensive in deployment, much more so than any other solution that you'll look at. Okay, so with that part, we're going to turn the process over. We're going to turn the process over to Alan Toker. Alan is our systems engineer, and he's going to go through a demonstration of the product just to give you an idea of what it looks like and how it works. So as soon as we get Alan transferred as a presenter.
Right.
Right, Alan?
And can you see my screen properly?
Yes, we can see fine.
Okay. All right. What I've got here is a demo and some samples of to show some of the things that Tim was explaining. And this first one here is fairly straightforward. It's just a matter of some invoices, and it's going to read them. What you're seeing here is equivalent to a verification step. The documents have already been come into the system. They've already been recognized and analyzed, and at this point, they're just waiting for someone to verify them. So if I open the first document here, on the right, I've got the actual invoice that came into the system. You can see it's a multi-page document here. On the left, I've got a data form that's matched to it. So and behind the scenes here, the system knows about things like about vendors, and that information is in a database that this is retrieving from. So what it's done here is first it's found, okay, who is the company here, and the business unit. And it found that information, matched it in the database, and says, yep, I know who that is. Did the same thing here with the vendor. It looked and it found, without intervention from me, it found who the vendor is, picked up that information. So with these two pieces of information here, it could then move on, identify the invoice number, the date, and the total amount. And you notice here that the total amount is not on the first page. Okay, so there is no total here. It's again, I didn't tell it where to find this. The system figured it out itself, and it said, "Oh, here's my total," and filled it in. Now this one, since there's nothing wrong with this one, this could be forwarded on to the export step, which would move it on to the out of the system. But I've got these intercepted, so I could show them to you. So here's another example. So you can see that it's a totally different layout of the invoice, yet it did all the same things. It found the business unit, the vendor. It found the invoice information and the amounts. And we've stepped through these. This one, again, a different layout, but the same idea. Here's just yet another one. And let's see, let's move this down a hair so I can see my documents. Okay. And I'm going to jump here to this one, which actually has something that it's complaining about. And what it's saying here is it's saying, okay, first of all, it says it didn't figure out who the vendor was. So it's flagged it for verification. It's telling me here that it doesn't have an amount right, so it's not a number, and it isn't enough information to search in the database. So the first thing I do is as a user, I come here and I click in that name field and I look and I say, okay, well here's the name of the company here. Let's put that in, and then I'll put in find. And it's looking and says, nope, that is not in our system. So at that point, I said, all right, then I'm going to put the rest of that information in. So I'll put in here the street. I'll put in the city. And you notice all I'm doing is selecting a field and then highlighting the text over here, and it's automatically doing its job. All right, so now when I hit find, it still didn't find it, but what I said is I can do here is I can say add a record. And so now it's got all the information that I put in here, and it's going to add it into the system. Now this is a temporary location. The final adding of that information would be up to someone, not the operator. That's an administrative function. But what this does do is it allows the operator to continue taking care of this invoice. They don't have to stop and wait. This has been flagged. An administrator can add this vendor to the system later, but in the meantime, I can continue. So now I come over here and I say, all right, here's my, looks like this is my invoice number here. And so I've got that. And now I come down here and go, okay, what happened? It's like, okay. The amount, it picked up this date field for some reason. So all I do is just click on that and then come over here and say, no, here's the amount. And now my error is cleared. And it's asking me, what do I want to do? I'm done with this document. So I say no, and now you can see all of these are set for export. So this document is moved on. So that's to show you how even if something is not yet in your system, you can still manage that invoice and gather the information that will be used so that the next time something comes from this vendor, it will be recognized. All right, now that's one type of thing. Now, yes, what I want to show you now is an example of the training that Tim talked about. So what I do is here, I've got 4 documents. I'm going to tell it to recognize just the first one. And recognizing just tells it to apply the rules that have been put in there that, yes, it's an invoice, and try to figure it out. So it says, okay, I figured out it's an invoice, but it's rejected. And it's rejected because it says, well, I don't know, I can't find this field here. So what do I do is I just go here and I say, all right, click on the total, come over here, click on the total amount, and this time what I'm going to do is click this button here that says train. And what that's doing is telling it to record information that I just told it. All right, now I'm going to go on to my next document. And now you need 3 documents of the same type in order to train it. So I have to do this 3 times. So now I have this one. I open this, and again it says, oh, I don't know how that. And I say, yep, I know that. It still doesn't know that. I click on it. I hit train again. All right. And now I'm going to tell it to recognize my 3rd document. I'm going to go through that same process again. All right. So now we come here, say yes, the same problem. I come down here. I click on the field, I hit train, and now it takes a little bit longer. You'll see this is doing a little more work here. Before it was really quick, because now it's actually building the rules that I just trained it for. All right, so now when we come to this last document, and we say recognize, and you'll notice now this one here says invoice valid export, and when I go to it, it now knows where that field is, because I told it, I trained it on those 3 steps, and I gave it that information. Now the other thing here is that when I train something, a special training batch is created, which matches to that. This is so that a administrator, these here for training, an administrator can evaluate that and decide if in fact that is correct, or they say, no, nope, that's not right, and they basically can undo what the operator did and use these to train it correctly. So even if the operator makes a mistake, it isn't yet permanent in the system until the administrator goes through this step. So that is what the training looks like. And I used just one field, but it can be done for others. The big point is that the operator is not interrupted. They can continue working. Now this other one here, what I've got is, this is to show the purchase order matching. Now in order to make this work, what I have is that there has to have been a database table, some database tables that have the purchase order information and a connection and the setup made to use that. So that's all been done behind the scenes. So what I have here is, here's a document, and again, this first part is fairly straightforward. It's the same as before, my business unit, my vendor, my invoice. But now I have information on purchase orders. See, it's found this purchase order because I told it that I want to do the invoice matching. So it found the purchase order. If I click on details, it found one item in the database for that purchase order. So I can do that, so I can look at it if I want. But down here, it already found that item and matched it. See here, this information matches that, which is the reason for the details. So if I want to check it, I could look at this. That is just pulled from the database. More importantly, I'm looking at this and comparing it to the document and say, yep, it's all good. Everything is found. Now we've got another one here, different layout, same idea. In this case, it was looking for verification because some of the characters that it read here, it isn't sure of. That's why they're in red. Things are in red are things that need to be validated. So I can look at that and say, yep, that one too is correct. I just hit enter. I hit F4, it takes me to the next thing. It's like, yes, the unit of measure is UL. The price is correct. So all I'm doing is going through and correcting the items that needed to be corrected. And that's just a matter of how well it read the document. For whatever reason, these pieces here didn't. And as a demo, that was deliberate, so you can see what that looks like. Now I go to the next document, and I've got you can see it's a whole different invoice, but I've got the same type of problem here. It's questioning some of the characters, and again, I could just hit enter and say yes, and then that document is correct. Here we've got a similar thing. It looks like this one is just here. You can see this is a very strange invoice. The table is not as clear, so it's why I wasn't sure about this position. Okay, I think that's this, that's one here, but let me check it for me. And I say, yep, that is fine. And again, we can then move on to the next one. Here we have, actually, I'm not sure what, 404. I guess it didn't like the document, didn't like that value there. And I've got, and that was the last document. So all the basic things that Abby does for reading a document, it does. This is all predefined. All I did to make these work was have the database information behind it and then drop this on here. And the first time it sees this particular one, it may or may not need help finding out where things are. Usually it figures it out by itself. But as you saw with the training, I can easily assist it so that in the future it won't have a problem with that document. Now, normally, depending on a setting, when you have things that says to export, they they could be automatically exported right through without and not even stop at the verification. Those are various choices that you can decide. Do I want someone to look at everything? Do I want them to look at at only things that have a certain type of problem? These are all choices, but the system handles most of it, and there's no programming or anything required to set this up. The most complicated is just setting up the connection to the database, and even that is, there's dialogues that step you right through it, and you just make choices right off of the screen. So that, in a quick look, is what Abby for for the invoices, how it looks. Tim and Olivia, I want to take that back and take back the control this and take the next step.
Okay, thanks, Alan. That was a good demonstration. So at this point, that concludes kind of the program part. We're going to open it up for questions. Olivia is going to unmute everyone. So as soon as she has that done, anyone have any questions? Okay. Well, if you think of any of them, you have Olivia's contact information, please don't hesitate to send them to us. We would make the offer to anyone on the call today if you would like us to do an evaluation of some of your invoices and run them through Abby and give you a custom demo to show you what they look like. We are certainly willing to do that. Just let Olivia know, or one of our sales folks know that you're interested in doing that, and we'd be happy to make that happen. So I hope you all have a good afternoon, and appreciate you being here with us. Thank you.